All right, I'm gonna open the gates.
This meeting is being assisted or transcribed.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think there are still some people filtering in, so we're going to give it just another minute or two before we get started. All right, we still have some people filtering in. I just want to be sure that we give everyone a chance to get signed in before we start. Okay, it seems like the flow of people is slowing down now, and I do want to be respectful of everyone's time, so I am going to go ahead and get started. I do want to let everyone know that this meeting is being recorded. That way, if you need to refer back to it later, it will be posted on our website so that you can go back and review it. And it'll also be available for anyone who is not able to make it today. Thank you all for your attendance and your promptness today. My name is Thomas Hartnett Russell. I am the Community Programs Manager with IHCDA, and I do have a group of colleagues with me. So we have Samantha Alexander Chenault, or Sam. So she is the Community Programs Analyst. We have Greg Glassley, the Director of Energy and Utility Programs.
Nailed it.
Sorry?
I said you nailed it.
Perfect. Jolie Pope, the Community Programs Manager for Special Projects. Is that?
Yeah.
And what's that? And we have Leah Smith, the Community Programs Monitor for Water. So I primarily oversee the Energy Assistance Program. Water does work in tandem with energy assistance, but there are some differences here. So I might be leaning on Greg and Leah at times if I come across something that I'm a little bit hazy on, or if somebody asks a question that I might not necessarily have the answer to right away. So please bear with me. But I am going to go ahead and get started. So the purpose of today's training is to prepare all of our utility vendor partners for the program year 2023 low-income home water assistance program season by reviewing common issues and discussing ways to collaborate and improve for the upcoming season. Please note that this is not a vendor portal training. Some of you may have been involved in a training for the rollout of a vendor portal back in, I want to say it was probably in March or so of 2022. So we are currently working with our software provider on some enhancements to that vendor portal to make it more helpful. And once those enhancements are done, our software developer, Rowing, will be scheduling a training, and they will be conducting that training. We will let everyone know once we have any kind of dates on that. But for now, this is just about kind of the policies and the processes and procedures associated with the water assistance program, and this isn't about the technology piece. So today we're going to cover an overview of the program itself, the vendor guide, the memorandum of agreement, some common areas of issue, including transmittal processing and vendor monitoring, our contact protocols, and then next steps. So let's begin with the water program overview. The Low Income Household Water Assistance Program, or LIWAP, is a new program funded in part by the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. LIWAP is a temporary emergency program designed to help low-income households and families who have fallen behind on their water and wastewater bills. So what LIWAP will provide is it'll provide a one-time benefit to income-eligible households in order to assist with current or past due charges for water and wastewater services. Last year we started this, and every household that was approved needed to be either disconnected or in arrears in order to qualify for benefit. But this year we're actually changing the program a bit. So a household will no longer need to be in arrears or disconnected in order to qualify for the benefit. We do have a matrix to help with current charges. So this funding is available to be used through September 30th, 2023. Currently, we're set for the program to be finished once the funds run out. The asterisk there is that if additional legislation is passed, the program might continue. But as of right now, that legislation just isn't there. So once again, the water assistance for now is a temporary program. It can assist income eligible households with both current and past due charges. It cannot purposefully create a significant positive forward balance, but it can assist with those current charges as of the date of application. It can also it can pay on deposits, and there is no real in-crisis distinction or required mitigating measures. Indiana residents who qualify for the Energy Assistance Program may be considered for LIWAP funding as well. To that end, we have actually we have introduced an integrated application. So the EAP application also functions as the application for the Low Income Water Assistance Program. We've tried to make it as low burden and intuitive as possible for people to be able to apply for both. Quite frankly, what we did is on the EAP application, we added a line asking which program you would like to apply for. And anyone who applies had the option to check off if they're applying for the energy assistance, water assistance, or both. Health and Human Services did require, they wanted us to encourage everyone to apply for both, but they also wanted to ensure that we gave everybody the option. They did not want us to automatically require people to apply for water if they did not wish to. And EAP and by extension, Low Income Home Water Assistance Program accepts applications each year from October 1st until mid-May. So let's talk about the eligibility process. LIWAP benefits are available to households with a combined annual income at or below 60% of the state median income. In order to be eligible for LIWAP benefits under this program, an applicant must maintain residency and active utility service within the state of Indiana. So when someone applies, in addition to the written application, our subgrantees agencies collect a photo ID for the head of household, and the head of household is defined as the person who is completing and submitting the application on behalf of the household. Proof of U.S. citizenship or residency, that usually is in the form of a Social Security card, that could also be a real ID, one of the enhanced driver's licenses, or a passport. And that is actually required for each household member above the age of 1. Proof of Indiana residency, that's usually going to be in the form of a utility bill, the driver's license, or some other documents. Proof of income for the entire household. For applicants whose utilities are included in the rent, we collect a landlord affidavit or a lease. Utility bills or account statements. And there might be some other documents that we might need on a case-by-case basis, depending on the specifics of that household's characteristics. So the benefit, as mentioned earlier, can cover arrearages, deposits, reconnection fees, and current charges. We cannot purposefully create a positive, significant forward balance, but the benefit is based on the bill at the time of application. So there we have 2 different elements of the benefit. First, we look at whether there's any arrearage, and if there is any past due amount there, then that's a crisis or arrearage benefit that's based on the exact amount of that past due balance minus any unallowable charges rather. And then we also have a matrix that we're rolling out that will give an additional allowance to help cover the current charges. So all the documentation we need is going to be the same as EAP, the application, the photo ID for the person who's actually submitting the application, the proof of residency, the Social Security number verification for all household members, income documentation for all adult household members, the water and or wastewater bills, and other documentation as required according to specific household circumstances or characteristics. The benefit level is based on the bill at the time of application, both for the arrearage and for the current bill. We do not have a minimum benefit amount that we're going to award. The maximum that we have is $2,500, and we do have an opportunity for a subgrantee who finds that a household who might have a particularly large arrearage that might need to exceed that $2,500. They can ask us for a waiver. So I want to pause here and ask if anyone has any questions about kind of the broad strokes of the program. And for questions, I should have covered this at the beginning, so sorry. Feel free to drop a question in the chat, or use the raise hand function. And I know that there are 3 of you who are on the phone. For those of you who are on the phone, I believe *6 is the keystroke combination that you would use to unmute yourself. Diana, feel free to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
On last year when we did this, it was our first year here in Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
The applicants were putting in applications, but we received calls from the agency, ICAP, to get a balance. So we were giving them the balances as of that date. So an applicant might have applied in October, but we didn't receive a call because the application was not worked until December. So we were giving them different amounts than what the applicant turned in. So is there a way to justify that? Because that's hard work for us to, it can be done, but it takes us a day or two to go back and get that particular month or the day they applied, as opposed to the day they call us.
Yeah, so and it sounds like maybe part of the problem there, you know, if I'm being completely frank, it sounds like part of the problem was maybe in the way they asked. So what we're looking for really is just, our expectation is that we would like the applicant to turn in their bill, whatever the most recent bill that they have received as of when they apply. And so really, instead of asking what the balance was, quite frankly, what the agency representative should have been asking is, assuming that the applicant, for whatever reason, was unable to supply that bill, what ICAP should have been asking for was if you could provide a copy of whatever the current bill was as of that date. So say someone applied on October 14th and they had just received a bill on October 8th. You know, basically we would be looking for that October 8th bill.
Okay, but like, okay, if they applied in October, but ICAP didn't work their application until November or December, well, that bill amount, what they owe is going to be different by December, even a month later.
Correct.
So they were calling and they were wanting an answer as of that day, but the person might have applied back in October. So we were getting a lot of our people here in the Anderson area were turning in an application for X amount of dollars, but when they called, ICAP to get it, we were giving them a different total. So some people got in a bind because they thought X amount of money was going to be paid, but it ended up being something different. So we were trying to work that out so that we could be fair, because they wanted like a.
Yeah.
So we were, I'm the one actually that did it. So I was trying to be fair because I wanted the customer to get what they were eligible for, but I didn't want ICAP to think that customer had turned in false information. It wasn't false information turned in, it was that application didn't get work till a month later, so you got a different amount.
Right. Yeah, so the way the policy is written is the award is given based on the status and the billing amount as of when the application was submitted, not when the application is being worked by the agency.
Bill, what they would call, and I was always submitting what was due as of that date, and a lot of times it was more than what the applicant had turned in because of the time frame between when the time application got put in and time it actually got processed.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, it's sounding like the applicant actually did turn in a water bill, and this agency was specifically calling and asking for an update on what they owed?
Yes, and like I said, they were asking for bill amount as of certain date, but they might have turned in the application earlier in the process. So
Okay.
we were getting these wavering amounts, but then they would go back and only submit it to pay what the original application said. So it was confusing with the customer what
Sure.
was actually going to get paid on the bill. So I was trying to be fair to the customer as well as to you guys to make sure nothing getting overpaid, but that we got the proper amount.
Absolutely. And we can definitely work with. It sounds like if the customers were turning in the correct bills at time of application, really ICAP had no reason to call you and ask for an update. So it's sounding like that was a breakdown in the processes on that end. So we can definitely make sure that we're stressing that our agencies keep in mind what the policy actually states and processes accordingly. Leah, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, based on your billing statement, what charges do you have broken down on the bill? Because that could be a lot of the reason why they're calling you. So do you pay just water and sewer, or do you charge for water and sewer? Do you have like trash or something included on the bill as well?
We have lights, water, sewer, trash, and a stormwater bill, but it's all broke down. Each
Yes, okay.
individual charge.
Is it separated by previous balances for each of those charges as well, or just the charge for current?
It just shows when you get a bill, it just shows your current charges, and then it'll just show a previous balance.
Okay, so with the previous balance, so if there was a previous balance of 250 and they saw that all those charges were listed, they have to call to figure out how much of that past due balance was allowable for water and how much was not. So that could be why they're calling. I do advise them to ask what are the water past due balances as of, and then the date of the application. But on your end, if you're looking at it 3 months later and there's a different charge, you can still put the amounts that are given based on that October bill, even if it's less or more than what it shows for that current month you're looking at.
Okay, so now let me ask this question. Is it I know they were asking like for the same day. It's just me one that does it. And if I need, I can ask for help, but it's not an easy thing because you have to go back and look up bills and get it figured out what was due as of this date. And they were wanting like a same day, possibly turnaround if we could. That's not going to be possible. I mean, that's why I say we want to be fair to the applicant as well as to the program, that these people get what's fair to them and not overage.
I think too, if I could just add something as well, Diana, yeah, we want to be fair to everybody involved in the process, which includes you guys as well. We don't want it to be a burden on the vendors. I think, and I don't know, part of the problem, and Tom had mentioned it, that it's, we'll work with those local service providers, those to make sure that they are understanding exactly what is required of them. Last year there was a lot of hey, we were covering arrearages only, so I don't know if some of those calls may have been out of, hey, I want to make sure I'm not paying more than what that bill is. But I think, kind of working out some of the kinks, that's something we can work with those local agencies to make sure they understand that, they don't need to call on some of those and get that very specific day of, that day point in time balance. But there may be other reasons they call, as Leah outlined, but the intent is not for them to call every time they go through an application and say, hey, what is today's balance? That is not the intent. So we'll work with that with those groups as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sherry.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having this training. I appreciate it. Two questions. One is, will there be a moratorium for the water wastewater like there is for electric?
As of right now, we're not aware of any movement within the legislature to create a moratorium. I think especially with it being a temporary program, I think that there's probably a door open for that to become something that would be taken up if this is continued as a permanent program. But right now, no, there's no indication from the legislature that that's on their radar.
Okay, and then my second question is, we will need, like we did last year, 2 separate MOAs, one for electric and one for water, wastewater, correct?
That's correct, but we issued our MOAs on a 2-year term, so we're
Right.
actually you're not going to need to do another MOA because this is going to be the second year of the 2-year term for both of them.
Oh, well, that is great. Thanks.
Absolutely, you're welcome. Glad to be the bearer of good news.
We appreciate it.
Does anyone else have any questions on the broad strokes of the program before I move on? All right, I'm going to move forward. So let's talk, that's actually a good segue. Let's talk about the MOAs. So the vendor memorandum of agreement must be signed for us to send client benefits to you. All benefits on behalf of clients are paid directly to vendors. Vendors must apply benefits to the specific individual's account for water and or wastewater. In our database, we currently have 212 participating vendors. And our MOA does include some consumer protections, which we're going to go over now, or in a few slides anyway. So our allowable charges include water, wastewater, stormwater, fire hydrant flush fees, including both fire protection and hydrant charges, disconnection and reconnection fees, taxes, deposits, costs associated with properties switching from septic tanks to local sewer systems, with the asterisk that it cannot cover installment of the new lines or the removal of the old septic tank. However, it can cover everything that happens after they are hooked up with the sewer company. And it can cover sanitary service, but only if the vendor defines it as wastewater or dirty water. Unallowable charges for LIWAP include trash, sanitation, solid waste, extra bin charges, street maintenance, clean air fee, insurance, repairs, infrastructure, well water, septic, and also benefits may not be assessed to settle an old debt on an inactive account unless settling this debt will lead to restoration of the account or the establishment of new service for the customer. So basically, we want to ensure that by providing a benefit, we are going to be providing some sort of continuing service. So we suggest to our LSPs that they check the vendor website to clarify charges before they contact you. But if they cannot figure them out from the website, they may reach out to you or your organization. We do understand that especially with this being a new program and with you guys not necessarily being kind of acclimated to what the demands were, that we want to really reduce that burden on you as much as possible. All right, the consumer protections that we have built into the MOA include application of funds to the household. The vendor will apply funds provided by the water program to the household on behalf of which the funds were provided. The vendor will then charge the eligible household in the normal billing process any difference between the actual amount due and the amount of the payment made by IHCDA. Reconciliation. The vendor will provide written reconciliation and confirmation to IHCDA upon request that benefits have been credited appropriately to households and that their services have been restored on a timely basis or the disconnection status has been removed if applicable. No adverse treatment. No household receiving assistance under this grant will be treated adversely because of such assistance under applicable provisions of state, territorial, or tribal law or public regulatory requirements. And restoration of service. The vendor must restore any disconnected services for an approved applicant within 3 calendar days of receipt of payment from IHCDA on behalf of said applicant. Next, I want to highlight a few of the notable agreements within the MOA. So the first one is agreement number 3, which is the cooperation clause. By signing the MOA, the vendor agrees to cooperate with IHCDA and LSPs with regards to sharing information about LIWAP applicant accounts, including water consumption costs, payments, disconnection prevention and restoration of service, arrearage amounts, account status, and other data related to LIWAP. This includes, but is not limited to, providing billing statements for applicant households regardless of the billing name of record. We do want to assure you that IHCDA has obtained consent from all applicants to collect this data. It's actually built into the language that the applicant signs off on when they submit an application. In cases where the account is in the name of a non-household member, we do have a form that the applicant needs to fill out in which they certify that they have obtained consent from the account holder to have this information released for the purposes of benefit determination. And collection of usage data is actually federally mandated for our required reporting back to HHS. Agreement number 4, vendor responsibility for other locations. So in situations where you might have a parent company with multiple satellite locations or subsidiary companies, only the parent company needs to complete the MOA and ACH form as long as the deposit and W-9 information for all the other locations match that of the parent. So in those cases, all subsidiary locations would be listed on the MOA Attachment B sheet, especially if they handle their own transmittals. If all the transmittals kind of go to one central location, it's not as important that each location is listed on that Attachment B. But if each location handles its own transmittals, then we absolutely do need them listed on the Attachment B. In order to streamline the management of vendors, we are seeking to reduce the number of distinct MOAs and ACH authorizations where possible. However, in cases where the payment goes to, so in cases where the payment goes to the same bank account, those locations should be grouped under the same parent organization for MOA purposes. If you have a case where you have a subsidiary location, but they have their own bank account that their payments go to, in that case, you would not be able to list both locations under the same MOA. You would have to have separate MOAs for both organizations. And finally, if you do have a parent company and subsidiary office or satellite office set up with an MOA, however, for your pledges and transmittals, a certain person at the satellite office needs to be contacted. That wouldn't be something that would impact the MOA, but that would be an issue to be addressed directly with the local service providers and built into their transmittal processes and procedures. Agreement number 12 covers the acceptance of payment. So in accordance with state code, all payments must be made by electronic funds transfer. We can issue checks under a rather narrow set of circumstances. In order to qualify for a live check as opposed to an electronic funds transfer, the vendor must meet both of these conditions. So you must not have and be unable to establish a savings or checking account that is capable of receiving EFT payments within your business's geographical area without the payment of a service fee. And you must also be able to provide a written statement from your financial institution confirming that you're unable to establish this account without paying that fee. So if you do fall into that category where you qualify for the check payment, and you would wish to waive the EFT requirement, you would simply reach out to us at the water@ihcda.in.gov email address, and just request that waiver, and then you would send back the completed waiver form along with that written statement from the financial institution, and we would pass that along to our controller for evaluation and approval. When claims for payment are accepted, or rather approved, those notifications will be sent to you from an automated email address at reset@ihcda.in.gov. You'll also get the payment notifications from that same address. So if you have an email server where you have to whitelist automated emails, you should be sure that you or your IT team are getting that email address whitelisted to be sure that you're getting those notifications. Agreement number 16, refunds and overpayments. So refunds and overpayments, before I get into this, I should be sure that we're very clear on the difference between refunds and overpayments. So a refund is, the main difference is in who initiates the return of funds. So a refund would be initiated by the utility vendor, by you. And a refund occurs when an applicant moves or otherwise closes their account or cancels service and leaves behind an outstanding positive LIWAP benefit balance. Because of the nature of how the LIWAP benefits are assessed, there's probably not a large opportunity for there to be a lot of refunds, because we're not creating significant forward balances, but I can see that there could be cases where possibly someone closed an account shortly after being approved, possibly, and there might just not be enough of a balance there to use up the entire benefit in that case. So that's a refund. An overpayment is created when one of our subgrantees, as a result of internal auditing or quality assurance, discovers that a mistake has been made, and either an approved household was given more benefit than they were actually eligible to receive, or if a household was actually approved when they were in fact not eligible for the benefit. So in that case, it is actually the subgrantee's responsibility to initiate this overpayment in order to recover the funds that were incorrectly given. So refunds and overpayments, when they are created, are to be issued on separate checks. And to be clear about that, what I'm saying is that not that, like, so if you have refunds for 3 customers, we're not going to look for 3 separate checks, one for each customer. However, if you have refunds for 3 customers and overpayments for 2 customers, what we're going to be looking for is for one check that's going to cover the 3 refunds and a separate check that'll cover the 2 overpayments. And the only reason for that is because our fiscal department actually does handle those differently depending on what the situation is, and having those separate checks just makes it a much cleaner paper trail for our auditors. So refunds would be accompanied by the name of the LSP who initially awarded those funds, the name of the client's account number, and the original transmittal number on which you receive those funds. Overpayments would be accompanied by the overpayment remittance sheet, which would come to you from the LSP and actually contains a lot of this information. It would contain the name of the LSP, the client's names, the account numbers, and the original transmittal number. And in addition, we have created a register sheet to accompany all refund and overpayment checks to assist our fiscal department in properly handling these payments. I did roll out that refund and overpayment register sheet last year. And I do have to apologize because I'm not sure if that was distributed to the water vendors or not. What I can do is, and this is something that's already on my to-do list, I'm going to ensure that that is available on the partner website, on IHCDA's partner website, where we're going to have all kinds of reference material for you, including the recording and the slide deck from this training. So I'm going to make sure that's up there within the next week or so. Next, want to discuss agreement number 20, which is record keeping. So there is a federal requirement to retain all materials regarding eligibility and benefits for a period of 3 years from the close of a program year. So that federal requirement does pass through every organization that is involved in the administration of this program, and so it does extend to you as vendors. So the vendor agrees to maintain an adequate accounting system to allow verification and auditing of the amount of service delivered to eligible households. This does include documentation that LIWAP funds were not applied to unallowable costs and that refunds and overpayments were remitted to IHCDA rather than to the customer. And records must be maintained for a period of 3 years following the close of a program year. So for example, program year 2023 is going to be ending on September 30th of 2023. And so those records must be maintained until September 30th of 2026. Now, kind of the flip side of the coin here is that we do recommend that you, in addition to being sure that you have the processes and the policies to retain those records for 3 years, that you also have something established to account for the safe and appropriate destruction or deletion of those records once that 3-year period has passed. We don't want to hold on to the records longer than we need to for various reasons. And we can talk about that later if we want to. So I know I just went over a lot of information about the MOA. And as kind of discussed earlier, this is an in-between year for the MOA because the MOA was issued for a 2-year term. However, are there any questions on what we just covered? Or has anyone had any other areas where they've experienced issues with regards to the MOA that they want to discuss or ask about? And Angela.
Hi, thanks. I just wanted to ask, we have a recurring issue here at the town of Plainfield where we frequently receive payments from these various organizations, various agencies through our ACH system, and that's fine, but they don't have any information as to who they are supposed to go to. So we have no way to determine what accounts they should be applied to, and we end up just sitting on them until someone calls and says, oh, I thought that I paid that, and then our accounting department has to match the check. But there has to be a better way to do that. Is there any way that we can have information sent along with it about, we do receive the email saying that someone is accepted into the program, but if their check doesn't show up and if there are many of them, that doesn't really help us.
Okay, so and this is going to be on a slide later in the later in this slide deck, but essentially, so you are getting the emails from reset@cda.in.gov saying that transmittal number X or claim number X has been approved for payment.
All that's on there for us is just like the name and address, but it doesn't tell me anything that aligns to a specific payment.
Okay, so it's sounding to me like you might not be getting the actual claim. So when you say that you're getting these notifications, these are from like the local agencies?
We don't get them often, and it's just
Okay.
like I think it's just maybe from just from like the automated line that just says this person has been approved within the system. It doesn't tell us when the payment would come. It doesn't tell us what payment. It just says their name, address, they have been approved for whatever program.
So yeah, because the emails coming from ICDA's fiscal department wouldn't have any PII on it. It wouldn't have any customer names or account numbers or addresses on it. So what it would do is it would reference a specific transmittal number. And so the idea is that when you see that those transmittal numbers are associated with that payment, that should be matched up with the transmittals that someone at your organization signed off on from the LSP.
Okay, so there's no way for us to get it in any other better way than that, because the way our system works, we have giant batches that are transmitted together. So there isn't a way for us to separate that out unless we have some kind of information, a name, an account number, an address, something.
So our fiscal department actually there's this, in order to protect PII, there's a separation, and our fiscal department actually doesn't have access to the individual names that are being approved. It's all batched into transmittal claims.
I mean, is there something we can look it up then? I understand why, for privacy reasons, why it needs to be separated. But at the same time, if we're receiving, 50 of these a month and they don't go anywhere, then they're not really helping anyone, because it's just like a mystery where they belong. I don't understand how a program is supposed to work if you can't apply the payments to the correct person.
Well, that's where the transmittals, that's where keeping those transmittals comes in. So the transmittals, which it sounds like maybe you're not the person receiving the transmittals, but someone in the organization is receiving and signing off on a transmittal. So the transmittal will have that complete breakdown of, within this batch, this person is receiving $250. This person is receiving $30.
So we're not getting that. And it's possible that we've had several people retire. It's possible that perhaps they were set up to receive it, but no one that is currently here in our accounts payable, no one in our utility billing office, no one's receiving anything like that. We just received the ACH batch number. That's it.
Okay, and so to be clear, Leah, do you want to jump in here?
I was just gonna say, but you can't receive an ACH payment without the approval from the vendor being signed off and sent back to the LSP to then be sent back to us. So there's a middleman in between that ACH payment of somebody in your office signing off on that detailed print off. So you get it from the LSP, you sign it, and then send it back to the LSP, and then they send it to ICDA for payment to you within 30 days. So somebody is signing a document that has all that claim detail on it. I mean, I can try and look one up while we're on the phone. What vendor are you again? I'm sorry.
We're the town of Plainfield in Indiana. Yeah, town of Plainfield, Indiana.
Yeah, we definitely can't. Before the LSP submits it to us for payment, they need to have the signature from someone there. So someone is signing off on that, and it sounds like maybe the missing piece is that transmittal is not making it over to the accounting department in order to make sure that those are being applied properly.
I mean, that's very possible.
Yeah.
need to know who that is, I guess, because
No,
we
absolutely.
all talk about it. And if somebody's getting that, then why wouldn't they say, hey, I'm signing off on that? I mean, to us, it literally looks like the checks just appear. They just appear through our ACH system. We don't do anything besides, get a little thing that says somebody's approved and then check. It's like an everyday problem.
No, and those transmittal transmittal summaries, I've seen them. They're so opaque. I can absolutely see how distressing and confusing this is. So, but yeah. So Leah is looking up who that is. Who the person of record for the transmittals is with your organization. And hopefully that can help. Hopefully that can help figure things out for you. And I did see some things popping up in the chat while we're talking. So Kathy Rettmeyer asked if you have access to the EAP Connect vendor portal.
Are you asking me that?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
No, we don't.
Okay, because I do know that does allow you to kind of drill in a bit more. But again, that is something we're working on enhancing. And that's something that, especially once those enhancements are there, we can work with you on seeing if there's a barrier to getting you on that. But in the meantime, I think once we're able to figure out who it is who's signing off on those transmittals and hopefully keeping those transmittals on your end, we can.
Probably not.
And there's also a comment here from Patty Elisario that seems like it's in response to you, Angela. What we do when we get a transmittal like that, we have had to call or email to find out who and how much, but we also call the city since they are the ones who can view the bank statement to find out if we even got the money and when, so we can post to the correct accounts. I am so sorry that everyone is having so much trouble with this procedure. Greg and Leah, this might be something we might need to kind of expand into its own kind of separate a separate presentation just to be sure that we're bringing everyone onto the same page. And
I agree, Tom. I was going to say, I think it'd be helpful, if you post some in the chat. We have so many vendors, and because of the newness of it, with energy assistance, sometimes we recognize the name and know where they're from and what group. But it may be helpful if you put, who you're with. I know, because this all started last year and everything came on board at different times. We do want to make sure, again, to your point, there's no way to apply payments when you don't know who they go to. So to your point, and I forget your name, I apologize, from Plainfield, but yeah, the whole idea is to help certain individuals who need the assistance, and if you don't know who those are, so there's gaps somewhere that either from an educational standpoint or making sure everybody knows where in their organization that goes to would be really helpful. But yeah, it's the information's there. We just have to make sure that we're all on the same page about when it gets sent and to whom and those types of things, to when to expect it. Because kind of to Diana's original question, the idea is not to burden, the hope is not to overburden you all at all on this. So yeah, we may have to have a separate conversation with, the people having issues with these transmittals and figure out exactly where the issue stems from.
all right, thank you. And Gail Norton asks if penalties are allowable charges. So Gail, by penalties, are you talking about late fees, or are you talking about more like unauthorized usage or tampering charges? If it's late fees, that would absolutely be an allowable charge. Yes. Okay. Late fees. Yes. Late fees would be an allowable charge, as far as other penalties, so I know within Energy Assistance Program, we specifically have tampering and unauthorized usage charges, and any usage that arises from that unauthorized usage. Those are specifically unallowable. I'm not seeing anything here. I haven't dived into the actual water manual to say for certain on those tampering and unauthorized usage charges, but I would assume that would follow Energy Assistance Program. So late fees, yes. Tampering and unauthorized usage, probably not, but I'll look into it more deeply and confirm that. Linda Hartley is asking, will the transmittals show how much money is to apply to each service this year? We provide all services and have to manually split the payments by service. Last year, there was just one total that had to be researched on how to distribute the payment. Linda, for reference, who are you with, and basically, are you both EAP and water? City of Anderson, and okay. So the EAP and the water should, in theory, be on different transmittals. They should be completely different transmittals, and if they're not, that might be a problem with how our software is generating those transmittals. Okay, so you did receive EAP on a different transmittal. Okay, so which services specifically were not split?
While she's doing that, I think sometimes when you have the water, wastewater, when you have separate charges that are allowable underwater, those are I don't believe we can break those specific amounts up and say X amount goes to water, or X amount is for the late fee, X amount is for that. That can't be broken up.
Okay, yeah. So Greg, she did say water, wastewater has only one amount, and they have to split between water and sewage.
Yeah, the benefit is just based on the bill, and so it's not, we look at the LSPs look at the allowable charges on that bill, but they don't break it down into very specific line items. And I don't know, we can talk internally and see if there's something that can be done, but right now that can't be broken into those specific line items.
Right. I saw another hand go up, and it looks like it went down. Does anyone else have another question they want to pose before I move on? All right. Sherry.
I just have all the questions today.
No worries.
Because when we have unpaid bills, sewer we can't turn off. So if we have someone who's been approved and it covers the sewer portion, I guess this is my brain thinking, we could apply it all to sewer, correct? And then we could turn over the electric, and unless they didn't get it, electric and water to Trex.
Sorry, I'm
So
because water is, I'm kind of coming into water halfway through. I'm still not very well versed. So run that by me one more time.
So if we get an amount for a bill and say it doesn't cover all of water and sewer, because sewer we cannot disconnect, then we could apply all of that to the wastewater charges. Is that correct?
Greg, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one because, you know, it really follows what I just, you know, the answer I just gave. You know, we don't, you know, when the LSPs look at that invoice, it's going to be, you know, $20 for water, 25 for sewer, whatever it is. And then you all just get that one aggregate, you know, hey, here's the amount that this account gets. And we don't, you know, I don't know if we can necessarily dictate, tell you how exactly you should apply those payments.
Oh, okay. I guess because it's federal funds, I want to make sure I'm doing it the right way too, because there's always so many regulations when it's tied federally.
Right. And the biggest thing, or one of the biggest things, is making sure that they are applied to allowable charges. So it would be different if, you know, let's say you applied those to trash or something like that. That is not allowable portion of this program. When you're applying it to all allowable charges under the federal regulation, that's a different story. And so, as you know, like I said, the intent is to keep all of it on. You know, and I know that's come up before. We've talked to some agencies who deal with, you know, sewer charges only, and they don't have there is no, we can't shut you off ability, and that adds a unique element, you know, certainly. And so, as long as, you know, we would love it if you kept service on. Certainly, that's the hope. And part of it is by, you know, applying a certain benefit in water. You know, the program covers arrearages. We would hope that, you know, the amount of the arrearage is covering the vast majority of that bill. There was a little bit of confusion, and maybe not confusion, but earlier this year, Sherry, where sewer was considered not an allowable charge. It is, because it's, you know, some people call it sewer, some people call it wastewater. It's all basically the same thing. But there was a time from our federal, you know, entity that said, you know, sewer charges weren't allowable. So that may have caused some confusion. Our hope is that the ability to pay the arrearages will, you know, that situation won't arise too often, is our hope.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for helping on that one, Greg. I am going to go ahead and move us forward. All right, so we'll go into the transmittal process. So transmittals will serve as the official record of the benefit for which a client has been approved. So if you have our process, we do encourage our subgrantees to try to do a quality assurance check or audit on their files as soon as they can, and to try, in cases where they are able to do that before sending out the transmittal, to do so, in order to reduce the number of overpayments that are generated. And so if you happen to get a emailed or phone call with a pledge received from an LSP contact, and if there's a discrepancy between that pledge that you originally received and the amount that's on the transmittal, that transmittal amount since the transmittal is the official record, that will be considered to be the correct amount. And remember that transmittals are not valid for payment until they have been signed by both a representative of the LSP and a representative from the vendor, and any changes made to the transmittal must be made prior to execution. All of our subgrantees have been instructed to ensure that transmittals are generated and sent at least once every 2 weeks, with weekly transmittals being strongly encouraged. Once the vendor receives a transmittal, it is the vendor's responsibility to fully review the transmittal before signing it. And that review should include ensuring that all the clients listed are actually customers of the utility, to ensure that the LSP didn't accidentally assign them to the wrong utility. Ensure that the name, the service address, and the account number all match what you have on your records, and ensure that the account is currently active and is not scheduled for disconnection or closure at the customer's request. If there are any errors, or if any accounts need to be removed because they're not actually your customers, it is the vendor's responsibility to mark these changes directly onto the transmittal report and to adjust the total amount if necessary prior to signing and returning the transmittal to the LSP. In order to keep the payments going in a regular time frame, utility vendors should make every effort to return signed or corrected transmittals to the LSP within 7 days. If this will be delayed, then we strongly recommend keeping an open line of communication with the LSP in order to inform them of the delay and to let them know when they might anticipate receiving that transmittal. So once they receive that signed transmittal back from you, then the LSP has 7 days to make any changes or corrections in the database based on anything that you've marked, and to submit that to us for payment. Once it's submitted to ICDA's fiscal department, it does go through 4 separate reviews. It goes through a claim review, an accounting review, and 2 other reviews. Each of those typically they're allowed 7 days for each review. So that payment should be generated within 30 days of the LSP actually turning in those transmittals to us for payment. And water utility providers are encouraged to note the benefit to the customer's account upon receipt of the transmittal from the LSP, since the transmittal does serve as that official notice that we are going to be paying that amount. Now, as we talked about before, if an LSP discovers an error has been made in benefit or eligibility determination, that LSP may award the client additional funds, or they may submit a negative transmittal accompanied by an overpayment remittance. As I said earlier, we do encourage our LSPs to do those QA checks early and often. We'd rather see fewer overpayment remittances. We'd rather them catch those overpayments before they even send that transmittal out, because we know it's a hassle for you guys, and it's a hassle for us to send you money just to ask you to send it back. It's also very wasteful. So we really do try to avoid that. So the LSP may, so if they actually underpaid a client, if they do a QA check and they determine that that applicant was actually eligible for $50 more than what they awarded, they can add those $50 at any time. However, if they are going to be submitting an overpayment remittance, our policy is that those must be submitted within 60 days of the initial approval. So if you get an overpayment remittance and negative transmittal from an LSP, and you note that's been more than 60 days from the initial approval of that client, you may inform the LSP that the window to request overpayment remittance has lapsed. At that point, it would become the LSP's responsibility to repay the benefit out of their own unrestricted funds. You may choose to accept the overpayment remittance at your discretion after the 60-day window has elapsed. That is totally your prerogative. So when a vendor receives that negative transmittal, you're going to follow the same procedure as you normally do. You're going to review it, sign it, send it back to the agency, with any corrections that need to be made. At this point, since they've already gone through the transmittal process with you on this customer, there shouldn't be any corrections to be made in theory. After returning the signed negative transmittal to the LSP, you would then also sign that overpayment remittance, and then you would send the overpayment remittance to ICDA along with the return payment register sheet and the check, and then we'd reinvest the funds into the program to fund benefits for other households. So an overpayment occurs because an applicant was accidentally awarded more funds than they were actually eligible for under the program rules, or because they were approved for benefits when the household was in fact not eligible. Therefore, any delinquency that may be caused by the removal of these benefits from the customer's account as a result of an overpayment would become the customer's responsibility to pay. So in order to keep payments on time and to not negatively impact customers and clients who are waiting for those benefits to come through, we are asking all vendors to return signed transmittals to LSP within 1 week of receipt, as previously discussed. And everyone, we know that things happen. We know that occasionally there are just situations where you fall behind. If you're going to be longer than a week, just keep that line of communication open with your LSP. Vendors must maintain records of all transmittal reports. Claim notification emails will note which transmittals have been approved for payment and the total of each transmittal. So please use these emails in conjunction with the transmittal reports for the purposes of correctly distributing funds and reconciling your claims. And please remember that no LIWAP funds are ever to be released back to the customer. All unused funds are to be sent back to ICDA as a refund within 60 days of account closing, along with that refund register sheet. So, has anyone had any issues with the transmittal process that we haven't already discussed? Anything that anyone needs any additional support or guidance on? Any general questions? Great. I am going to move on. So vendor monitoring and best practices. What is vendor monitoring? The purpose of vendor monitoring is to ensure compliance with the LIWAP program and by the utility vendor. Is also an opportunity to improve processes, and it lets us know where areas of confusion or additional assistance might be needed. Vendor monitoring is a federally mandated component of the LIWAP statute, as indicated on the MOA. And all vendors that participate in the state of Indiana's low-income home water assistance program are subject to vendor monitoring. This monitoring will be conducted as a desktop review. And we are currently in the process of hiring an additional staff person in order to assist with vendor communications and monitoring. So this is most likely the person that you will be primarily working with through the monitoring process. So this is roughly kind of a big picture overview of what the process looks like. We would send you a letter 30 days before your monitoring session, letting them know when it will begin. You will then be asked for some documentation that you would be required to submit to us prior to the start of the monitoring session. As part of the monitoring session, there's going to be a utility supplier survey that you would need to complete. And then all vendors being monitored will receive an assessment completion report within 30 days of ICDA completing the desktop review. So as I said, there is going to be a required water utility supplier survey, which is where a lot of that information for monitoring is going to come from. We will choose a sampling of approved accounts from a LIWAP transmittal from the program year. It will be chosen at random. And all vendors are to comply with any request for additional information or documentation as part of the vendor monitoring as stated in the MOA. And we have some best practices. A lot of these have come out of some of our vendor monitorings that we've done for the EAP program. So all vendors should create written processes to promote consistency and program integrity. In turn, those processes can be submitted at the time of monitoring to show the utilities processes and program compliance. All vendors should perform internal quality assurance audits on Lywop customer accounts. All vendors should create a system to ensure that unallowable expenses are not being paid using Lywop funds. All vendors should create a 3-year record retention and destruction policy for all Lywop documentation, including electronic documentation. All vendors should strive to meet all reporting deadlines. This allows ICDA to fulfill its own federal reporting requirements and to make effective program changes in a timely manner. Vendors should develop outreach strategies. Outreach is an important aspect of the low-income home water assistance program. It helps fill in the gaps in services so low-income households can maintain access to residential water service. We are currently working with our internal marketing team to create some additional outreach material for this program year. And we would be happy to supply that and to make that available to you to use in your own outreach to low-income households in your service area. And up here on the screen is a web link for the ICDA program partners page for EAP and LIWAP, and that's where this new material is going to live once it's done. So that the marketing material will be there. This video will be here. The slide deck, the refund and overpayment register sheet that I talked about, the vendor guide, all of that will be able to be retrieved at that web link. And finally, please ensure that you are providing clients with accurate information. So sometimes we do see links to the wrong websites, and one of the common examples that we see is sharing the EAP Connect portal address, and we actually have we have an internal ICDA side kind of applicant landing page that has a direct link to the portal, but it also has a lot of important information about what they need to provide as part of the application, their rights and responsibilities, including their appeal rights, links to find who their local service provider is. A lot of things that we really have made a commitment to provide at the time of application. So we want to be sure that we are having people land there so that they have access to that information. And so that web address is eap.icda.in.gov. So whenever people are being directed to the online portal, that's really the address that they should be guided to. Before I move on, do we have any questions about the vendor monitoring or the best practices? Right. Going to move on now to the contact protocols.
It looks like we had
Oh.
2 in the chat.
Oh, it didn't give me the badge on the chat usually that it usually gives me, telling me if they're unread messages. Okay. So great. Thanks, Jolie. So Patty is asking if there's a spreadsheet provided by ICDA or do we do our own spreadsheet? Patty, can you expand on what spreadsheet you're referring to? Oh, yeah. So I will say, and of course, with water being a brand new program, we have not done water monitoring yet. I think that the specifics of what this is going to look like are still being worked out. I'm assuming it's going to be largely modeled on how the the EAP vendor monitoring has gone, in which case I do believe that IHCDA provides any forms or templates that need to be filled out. Jolie, are you able to expand on that at all?
Yeah, so we will give you kind of a form that you'll fill out, and there'll be blank spots for you to give us the additional information, assuming water follows the same pattern as EAP. And then you'll have a survey that's more in like a Word document. So there'll be both, but we do provide you everything that you need for monitoring. You don't have to make anything up, and we try to make it easy. It's one of those checks and balances, as well as a way to make sure that we're able to improve on our process. But we make it easy for you.
Thank you, Jolie. I thought that was the answer, but I wanted to be sure. And then Holly is asking how to find out who her local person is to talk to. I have 2 different emails and neither one will work. It either rejects as spam or says it can't be found. I'm trying to find some flyers, brochures, etc. to use on our website to get this information out to citizens. Holly, can I ask what agency you're reaching out to, or what county you're in? Allen County. All right, Holly. I can if you want to either drop your email into the chat, or you can email me at well, you can email water@ihcda.in.gov, and we can ensure that you have the contact information for the manager at that agency. But yeah, we can definitely help you with that. And then Patty asked, should we be keeping individual files on each customer so we can match up transmittals when receiving payments? I mean, I feel like that. I kind of feel like that's a question of internal practices and procedures, which I'm not really certain that's our role to kind of tell you how to get everything applied correctly. I would say, we don't want to micromanage the process. There might be some processes that work well for some organizations and some that don't work for other organizations. And so we don't want to necessarily kind of step on any toes and tell you how to get something done. Oh, okay. Sorry, Patty. Yeah, you answered your own question. Perfect. Okay. So, any other questions on the vendor best practices or vendor monitoring? So, let's move on to contact protocols. We are nearing the end here. So to help reduce confusion and streamline communication, you should ensure that you're always communicating with the appropriate entity. So in most cases, the LSP will most likely be your primary point of contact. However, there are going to be some cases where IHCDA will likely be your primary point of contact. However, IHCDA is not going to be the primary point of contact for clients or EAP recipients in any circumstances. And so we do ask that vendors and vendor representatives refrain from ever providing IHCDA contact information directly to any customers, whether or not they are Lywop recipients. And just the reason for this is because the client concerns typically are best handled at the LSP level. And so by sending them to IHCDA, Usually all we're going to be able to do is to send them back to the LSP. So we're kind of adding a layer of communication, and that may also take more time. And for someone who might be in crisis, it can be a very, very frustrating situation. So in a nutshell, the LSP is going to be your primary point of contact for situations such as questions about any specific client or household, questions about a benefit, questions about the submission of a transmittal, confirming the application status for a specific client or household, or for notification of suspect customer meter tampering or unauthorized use when that customer is a LIWAP client or applicant. IHCDA will be your primary point of contact when you have questions about the payment that you are unable to answer after reviewing your transmittals and claim approval emails. If you have questions about the MOA terms, if you have problems getting information from the LSPs, and if you have any follow-up on a refund, or if you have suspicion of fraud or misconduct at the LSP level, we would ask you to please reach out to us if you have any reason to believe that anything like that is happening with the subgrantee. As far as clients go, all referrals to LIWAP from the vendor should be made either to the appropriate LSP or to 211. In addition to dialing 211, 211 does also have a web portal, and we do have the address there for you. It's in211.communityos.org. And customers may be also referred to the eap.ihcda.in.gov email address for more detailed information, and also for access to that online application portal. And here is a look at what the service areas look like. We do have a network of 20 subgrantees who administer on a county by county basis. This map is very much the same as what we had and were used to last year. The one change that we have is going to be down in the southeast corner of the state. And so most of you who are in this area probably already know this, because I know both agencies involved have been trying to proactively reach out to the vendor partners in that area. But Clark, Floyd, and Harrison counties, the administration of those counties have changed. So Clark and Floyd have now been absorbed into the service territory of Ohio Valley Opportunities, or OVO. OVO was previously already serving Jennings, Jefferson, and Scott counties, and they've just added Clark and Floyd to their territory. And Lincoln Hills Developmental Corporation, or LHDC, who previously were serving Crawford, Perry, and Spencer counties, have added Harrison County to their territory. So we just went from 21 agencies to 20 territories, or 20 agencies rather. Harrison County, LHDC is going to be partnering with Harrison County Community Services, who's already established in that area and has been involved in partnering with the previous agency that was covering Harrison County with the administration of EAP. So they're already knowledgeable about the program, and they are going to be partnering with LHDC to help with that administration and help them to expand into that territory. So fortunately, because Harrison County Community Services was already involved, there'll be some familiar names and faces still. With Clark and Floyd County, my understanding is OVO has opened up a new office right on the county line between Clark and Floyd counties. And those of you who have already worked with OVO, from Jennings, Jefferson, Scott County, know that they are a great agency to work with, and they have very high standards. And we're really excited to see the the services provided in Clark, Floyd, and Harrison County kind of grow and improve. So to contact IHCDA, please use the water@ihcda.in.gov mailbox. This is a shared mailbox that the entire department can access. It ensures that your message can be read and addressed regardless of individual staff absences. And do note that the fiscal department is separate from LIWAP and does not have direct access to that mailbox. However, if you have questions of a fiscal nature, you can feel free to send them there and we will forward them. Also, if you have a question that that you feel specifically needs manager eyes on it as well, please do continue to send it to that water@ihcda.in.gov mailbox, but you can also CC me directly on it. My email address is a little bit long, so I'm going to drop in the chat here. But for the benefit of those who are on the phone, it is thartnettrussell@ihcda.in.gov. And I will be sure that I add that to this presentation as well, so that once we get it posted to the website, everyone will have access to my email address as well as the water inbox. And so I see there are a couple questions in the chat as I open this up to questions again. So Cindy is asking if a PDF of the presentation will be sent to all participants and what is the process to opt out. So Cindy, what we're going to do is we're going to be posting this the PowerPoint of the slide deck onto the partner page along with the recording. And that's probably going to happen sometime next week. And we will be sure to email everyone to let them know that that has posted. And it will also have a reminder of what the URL is. As far as the process of opting out, can you clarify what you're asking about opting out of specifically? While I'm waiting for Cindy to get back to me on that one, Kathy is asking when customers can start applying for aid. So the statewide program technically opens on October 1st. October 1st is a Saturday this year, and we wanted to make sure that people who are applying through their LSP versus online kind of had equitable access to begin submitting their applications. And so we did delay the opening of the application this year to Monday, October 3rd. So October 3rd is going to be when people can start applying. We have already sent out applications to existing applicants who meet our at-risk criteria. And an at-risk household is considered any household that has someone who is 60 years or older, 5 years or younger, disabled, or a veteran or active duty military. And so those applications have gone out. We allow our at-risk households kind of priority access to early applications. But yes, for anyone who's not already on our rolls as an at-risk household, October 3rd is going to be the date for people to start applying, and that is going to be when the online portal opens as well. Okay, and I see Leah, you're working with Cindy, so thank you for that. Holly is asking if we have the link for online applications. So I am dropping that in the chat so that you have that. If you need to prepare any materials before this presentation goes up on the website. But the address is eap.ihcda.in.gov. Kim.
Hi, I'm online and on the computer. I don't see the chat that you're talking about.
Kim, I can barely hear you. I'm wondering if your microphone placement is off.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's so much better. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. I had to call in as well as do the computer. I don't see the chat. Like I don't have anywhere to read the chat or type in the chat.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear that. So we will be posting all of this information, like I said, sometime next week, and we'll email everyone once it's been posted. But I can try to I can try to
just
read
missed
anything
your
off to you.
email and the link.
Okay, so my email, so it's a little bit long. It's thartnettrussell. So it's THARTNETTRUSSELL at ihcda.in.gov.
Thank you. And
Yep.
what was the link that you just gave?
So the link is for the online application portal, and that is eap.ihcda.in.gov.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And Holly is asking, so when the program opens on October 3rd, will there be a link on this site to apply online? I'm not seeing one on this page. Yes, Holly, that's correct. We do. We did find that when we had the link still up, even if we had something very big at the top saying that applications are currently closed, they'll be opening on X date, people would still try clicking into there and then become upset that they couldn't actually apply. So we had our marketing communications team just remove the link until it's actually open. So what we're going to do is I'm going to work with them to see if they can kind of have the page set up so that it automatically publishes the update on the morning of October 3rd. And Kathy is asking when the PR and marketing information will be available. We use that to promote the program on our city website. Kathy, that is a good question. I know that we've been in some extended conversations with our marketing and communications team. Greg or Jolie, do either of you know any updates of when they're planning on pushing some of this material out?
So I think we'll have revised versions that are updated for this program year fairly soon, within maybe the next week or two, and then additional material that is more kind of tailored throughout the year. So brand new material, probably later, updated material in the next week or two.
Great, thank you for that. Someone from Jamestown is asking, will more of our customers who receive LIHEAP be receiving LIWAP since they no longer have to be in arrears to qualify for it? That is certainly our hope. That was definitely one of the what we saw as one of the positives of introducing the matrix and no longer requiring a household to be in arrears. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a crystal ball, but it definitely is our hope and our intention that we're going to see a lot more uptake on this. We're also hoping that just since hopefully our client base is more used to the idea of I can get water along with my electric and gas assistance, and hopefully they'll be more used to submitting that bill as part of that application process. But yeah, we're looking to see a big increase this year, hopefully, knock on wood. All right, so I know some of you are on the phone, but on the screen right now you see the calendar for the next program year. So the federal program year actually opens on October 1st, 2022. And again, because as of Saturday, we are going to open the online application to the public on October 3rd, 2022. That is also the day on which our local service providers can begin distributing mail-in applications to households who do not qualify as at risk. November 1st is going to be the statewide start of the Energy Assistance Program. That's the day on which in-person appointments may begin with the LSPs. The LSPs may begin to send transmittals to utility vendors, and the applicant notification letters of approval or denial may begin to be sent to applicants. May 15th, 2023 at 5:00 p.m. will be the end of the EAP application period. That's 5:00 p.m. Eastern time. So we are going to have the online portal stop taking applications at 4:59 and 59 seconds on that day. And the agencies have been notified to stop accepting applications as of 5:00 on that day. Once those final applications come in, we do give our LSPs 2 weeks to process them. And we do have a 1-day allowance for Memorial Day, which falls in there. So May 30th, 2023 is the date on which we would like to see all incomplete EAP applications be fully processed by the LSPs. We do award extensions on a case-by-case basis upon request, but we really want to see every agency do its best to get those finished by May 30th. We then want to see them submit those transmittals by June 10th of 2023. And the hope is that everything is reconciled, all transmittals have been returned, all corrections have been made in the system, and everything is ready to be sent to ICDA fiscal for payment by June 24th, 2023. So we have 19 minutes left in this meeting. Do we have any more questions or discussion? All right, well, if no one has anything else, then we can definitely give you back a little bit of time in your day. I do want to thank everyone sincerely for attending this training and for the hard work that you complete in order to make LIWAP successful. Once again, if you have questions or concerns, you can reach out to water@ihcda.in.gov. If you need manager eyes on it as well, you can include me on that as a CC. That's T. Hartnett Russell at ihcda.in.gov. We will be updating our vendor guide and the marketing material in preparation for the 2023 program year. I know that our vendor guide was it was created in 2019, and it really has not been updated much since then. So obviously that was before there even was a water program. So we are going to be working hard to get that fully updated so that you can so you can refer to it as well. All that will be on the partner page. And then as a reminder, we are working with Rowing on some enhancements to the vendor portal. We hope to roll that out. We hope to roll that out this year. I would love to have it done before the transmittals start. Since we don't control the software vendor, I'm gonna stop short of promising that, but that is our goal. And we will be in touch once we have that scheduled. And I just really want to thank everyone for their time today, for their attention, for asking some really, really great questions. It's really great to see so many people engaged in this. And it's great to see, to know that we're all working towards the same goals and same mission. And Greg, Jolie, Leah, if anyone else on the ICA team wants to add anything.
Just want to say once again, thank you all. We know it's always hard to adjust, and so this has been an interesting first year, but we're excited to go into year 2 with you. As Tom mentioned, if you have anything you need to reach out about, please do so. We're here to collaborate and be partners with you in this and in better serving Hoosiers.
Yeah, I just echo Tom and Jolie with, I mean, there's certainly a new program, a lot of growing pains, and the fact that you all have kind of gone through those with us. We do really truly appreciate you being part of this program, so we can help more and more Hoosiers. And as things arise, you've got the water email. Please send email, questions, concerns, anything that just, if you feel like there's a burden being placed on you, we want to make sure that we're able to listen to you all. So don't be afraid to use that email address.
All right, and I think that might be it, unless anyone has any last thoughts. I'm happy to give everyone back 15 minutes of their day. And once again, just thank you so much. And please, please, please reach out with any questions. We are happy to help. And I will be emailing, or someone will be emailing everyone once all this material is posted, probably sometime next week. All right. Thank you, everyone.